this part of our tutorial, we're going to design the basic layout of the app. So it's important to have a design in mind and have a prototype before we start to code. If we know what it looks like before we start to code, then we can design the code around that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the necessary fields to our blank phone screen, and these fields will be objects such as buttons, text inputs, and labels. Welcome back. Right now I'm in Xamarin Studio and I'm just board. So this is where we will design the layout of our apps. We're going to place text fields and buttons, and we're basically going to design how it's going to look. So right now, as with development in Android, it gives you the default phone screen with a Hello World Click Me button. We don't really want this right now, so we're just going to select it and click delete. And there we go, so it's gone, which is good because we don't really want that button on there. Now, the way we had our tips calculator set up before was we had an input field here for the cost, another input field here for the tip, then we had a calculate button here, and at the bottom we had an output that was just a text field that would give the final cost. So it's a pretty reliable and safe design, and we may as well do the same thing here. In Android, we had text fields under the toolbox, but we have different names in iOS. So we'll be using the same button. Text fields that aren't modifiable by user input are labeled. So these are just text fields that can only be modified from within the code. And we'll be using, if we scroll down, we'll be using text fields for input. So because our first two parts are going to be needing user input, we'll add a couple of text fields. So I'll just go ahead and put the first one up here. And in Xamarin Studio with Android, we had the text field automatically place on the nearest top line, but with iOS development, we can kind of just place these wherever we want. So if I select this, I can have it down here, I can have it off to the side, but to make things simple, I'm just going to keep it up top here. So we have one text field. This will be where our cost will be going. We'll have another text field. This will be where our tip is going. And if we scroll up here in Toolbox, we'll select button, and we'll have the button down here. So this is going to be the one that is pressed when we want to actually calculate the tip. And we'll add a label at the bottom here, and this will display our total cost. So we don't want a text field here to display our total cost. We don't want a text field because we don't want to be able to modify the input. All we want this to do is display the final cost at the end. So right now we have our basic layout. We can kind of expand on this a little bit. We'll make our text boxes a little bigger. So again, just once you select it, hold your cursor over the little circle here until it turns blue. And with the button, we'll just move it up a little bit, spread it out. And same with the label, we'll just move it up a little bit, and we'll make it a little bigger. So once again, we have three different fields going on here. We have two text fields, which are text inputs. We have a button, and we have a label, which will just display text. In this part of the tutorial, we designed the basic layout for our app. So this involved adding two text inputs, a button, and a label in that order. So the first text input will be the cost, the second text input will be the amount of tip we want to give, the button will be to actually trigger the calculation, and the label is where the final cost is going to print out. By now you should be able to design a basic app layout and place the fields where you want them to be, so whether these are text boxes or buttons or labels or anything.